The chapter begins with a question raised by Arjuna. Bhagavan, if you consider knowledge to be the supreme, then why are you asking me to wage this battle, perform this action? Bhagavan could have said, Arjuna, just fight. But Bhagavan did not do that. The entire chapter is because of that one question raised by Arjuna. So here from various standpoints, Bhagavan gives various reasons as to why Arjuna should fight the war. So we have seen so many reasons. Finally, Bhagavan concludes that Arjuna, therefore you must fight. And whatever teaching has been given, Bhagavan said, those people who sincerely, daily, regularly practice this teaching, all of them will be free from the bondage of action. All of them will be free from the birth-death cycle. But those people who don't have any faith in this teaching, Bhagavan says, no, for sure, that they are going to be destroyed. So the choice is ours. But then Bhagavan says, Arjuna, there is one more thing. This knowledge, this spiritual knowledge should not remain merely as intellectual knowledge. It should not merely remain as an information, but one must transform. The knowledge of spirituality should get well digested in our personality. There should be a behavioral change. That is what is more important, because jnanavanapi, even a person who is well informed, that person has studied the scriptures, he has attended satsang, he has understood the scriptures well, but even then, swasyaha prakritehe sadrisham cheshtate, that person will act only according to his nature, not according to his knowledge. So gathered knowledge is one thing, digested knowledge is another thing. So gathered knowledge should be well digested. It should become a part of our personality. Otherwise that knowledge is no knowledge at all. Because when a situation comes, when the problem comes, when the crisis comes, when a challenge comes, how will you respond to that challenge? You will not respond to the challenge based on your information. You will respond to the challenge based on your nature, based on your habits, based on your samskaras. So therefore, this knowledge should become our samskara. It should become our habit. It should become our nature, prakriti. So what has to be done? Bhagavan, so what should I do so that this knowledge becomes our prakriti? So that is what is mentioned in verse number 34. So what is the advice given? Arjuna, Indriyasya arthe raga-dveshau vyavasthitau. As far as the senses are concerned, indriyasya artha means what? Sense objects. So senses go towards the sense objects. For example, eyes are the senses. What are its sense objects? The color and form. That is the sense object. Shabda, sparsha, rupa. So every sense has got a sense object. So what does Bhagavan say? As far as the indriyas are concerned, it will have raga-dvesha with respect to its sense objects. Raga-dvesha, likes, dislikes, it will be there. But what is the advice given? Tayoho na vasham agachet. Never come in its way. When you see a particular sense object, there will be either raga or dvesha. But don't come under its way, because tauhi asya paripanthinau. These raga-dveshas are paripanthinau. Paripanthinau means highway robbers. It will rob away everything from you. It will destroy you. What do the robbers do? So there is a person walking on the road. He is all alone. The robbers come. They loot that person and go away. Isn't it? In the same way, when we walk the path of spirituality, there are two robbers. Who are the robbers? Raga and dvesha. Beware is a warning given. Beware. Now, here, what is the solution given? Any sadhaka, when he is practicing, when he is walking the path of spirituality, of course we are constantly exposed to this world. And this world is full of sense objects. And when we expose ourselves to these sense objects, raga-dvesha will come. So what is said here? Never take decisions based on raga-dvesha. This is the way to win over all our addictions and bad habits. What does it mean? See, when you see a particular sense object, suddenly a thought arises. There is either raga or dvesha. Yes or no? That first thought you can't avoid. It will come based on your samskaras. It will come based on the prarabdhas. It will come based on your earlier cultivated nature. It will come. You can't stop it. But once this thought has come of raga-dvesha, whether to entertain it or not, that is your choice. Got it? Likes and dislikes will come. You can't stop. But the problem is, what do we do? Consciously or unconsciously, we keep on entertaining that raga-dvesha. So what happens when raga-dvesha is constantly entertained? It becomes stronger and stronger. So where is our purushartha? The self-effort. The first thought you can't avoid. It will come based on your past habits. But after that, one thought has come. Whether should I allow that one thought to become two thoughts, 4 thoughts, 16, 64? The choice is mine. So what should an alert sadhaka do? The moment one thought has come, you have no choice, but you can put a full stop there. No, this is not the way I want to form habits. This is a wrong way. It is a robber. He will loot me. He will destroy me. Therefore, let me not entertain this thought. That putting a full stop, that choice is yours. Are you able to understand? So constantly when you do this, for that you have to be really alert, because you must know that such a thought has come. The rule is, earlier the detection, easier the correction. This is the rule. So a person who regularly meditates, one part of his mind is always looking within. What is happening in the mind? what kind of thoughts are emerging in the mind. So if your attention is within, you are able to detect all kinds of inauspicious thoughts at a very early stage. So if you are able to detect at an early stage, at that time it has not gained enough strength. These thoughts have not gained enough momentum. So because you have detected it at an early stage, you are able to correct it also. You are able to observe the thoughts. You are able to detect the negative ones. You are able to substitute it with the positive ones. And you are able to completely eliminate all the negative thoughts, and you are able to substitute it with positive thoughts. This is sadhana. Ensuring that the mind is always filled with good thoughts, noble thoughts, divine thoughts. This is the price you have to pay to have a peaceful mind, a pure mind. So regular meditation will give you an ability to look within. What is our problem? We have trained the mind to look outside. The mind is totally extroverted by nature, because nobody told us to meditate. For so many births we have been paying attention outside. So therefore looking out is very easy, looking within is difficult. But over a period of time, with regular meditation, you will be able to withdraw your attention and pay attention to that mind. And when you pay attention, what is the greatest benefit? You are able to detect these emergence of thoughts at a very early stage. And what is the benefit? You are able to correct it at a very, very early stage. Once the thoughts are corrected, your speech, your action, your behavior, everything can be corrected. Rest everything is fine. Nipping it in the bud is possible only for a regular meditator. So what does Bhagavan say? Cultivate this. Make it a habit. Make it a habit of what? Make it a habit to think only positive thoughts, good thoughts. Make it a habit to think not based on likes and dislikes. Make it a habit to think based on rights and wrongs. Righteous thoughts should flow spontaneously, effortlessly. Once we make this a habit, everything is a habit. Now we are having negative thoughts because it has become a habit. Consciously, when you eliminate negative and cultivate positive thoughts, a time will come when positive thoughts become a habit. Then you are safe. Then you are safe. Then any situation comes, automatically the positive thoughts will come. Why? You have made it a habit. Anything which becomes a habit becomes effortless. But till then, you are not safe. Till then, what should be done? Till then, go on doing this. What? Look within, detect the mistakes, correct it. For this, effort is needed. And this is the real spiritual sadhana. If this is done constantly over a period of time, you will find what becomes your prakriti then. Your prakriti will be Daivi-prakriti, divine nature. Such a person will have no more problems. But then Bhagavan, can you tell me a simple means of winning over Rāga-dvesha? That's fine, I accept. But some tips. Bhagavan said, yes, here is the tip. Next verse. Shreyan Svadharmo vigunaha para-dharma svanushthitat Svadharme nidhanam shreyah para-dharmo bhayavaha. Right. Looking into the mind and detecting the thought and correcting the thought is difficult. So where should we start? So here a wonderful tip is given. The tip is strictly perform your duties. Don't perform your duties based on Rāga-dvesha. Strictly do it based on right and wrong. So this is called as Svadharma. Whatever is your Svadharma, strictly do it. This is how we have to start. Starting point is not meditation, because in the beginning it is very difficult to detect mind, correct negative thought and all is very difficult. How should you start? It's a very useful tip given. whatever be your responsibility, strictly do it. What is being said here? Shreyan Svadharmo Vigunaha. One Svadharma is far better, even though filled with defects. Para-dharmat svanushthitat. Compared to para-dharma, you may be able to do para-dharma very well, but compared to para-dharma, performing your Svadharma is far better, even though it may have defects. Sva-dharme nidhanam shreyaha. It is far better to die performing one Svadharma. Para-dharmo bhayavaha. Performing para-dharma, it is filled with, it's fraught with fear. It is dangerous. Now what does it mean? First of all, let us try to understand what is Svadharma. What is Svadharma? How do I know which is my Svadharma? Especially this problem comes, especially for the youngsters of the modern times. Which path to choose in studies? This is how the confusion of Svadharma comes. Which profession should I choose? Should I choose engineering, or should I choose law, or should I choose commerce, or should I choose medicine? There are so many fields. How will I know which is my Svadharma? So in our scriptures they say, whichever subject you love to study, whichever subject, even when you face problems and challenges, you don't find it as a problem, you find it as an opportunity to learn. If there is some subject which you love to study, which you love to do, you are not bothered about others. You are not bothered about how much salary you will get. You are not bothered whether others will recognize your abilities or not. If there is some subject like that where you are self-inspired to study, understand that is your Svadharma. Understood? This is how Svadharma has to be selected. What is that subject which you just love to study? You are not studying for marks. You are not studying for appreciation. You are not studying for money or recognition, award, reward. No, you just love doing it. If there is some subject in your life, if there is some such branch of knowledge, understand that is your Svadharma. What does Bhagavan say? It is far better. Shreyan Svadharmo Vigunaha. That particular branch of knowledge, that subject may have lot of defects. What are the defects? Maybe you are not getting enough income out of it. Maybe it is not much popular among the people. Now they are all defects. Maybe others are not able to recognize the glory of that branch of knowledge. Even then, it is far better to do it than doing para-dharma. You may be able to do that para-dharma better, but even then, Svadharma is superior. This topic I have taken because nowadays the real problem with the youngsters is which branch to choose studying. So very many times they choose based on salary. Oh, if I study this, I will get lot of money. I will get an opportunity to go to US, UK, etc. Lot of opportunities there. But are you made for that? Are you really interested in that subject? No, others are taking, therefore I also take. My friends are taking, therefore I also take. No, don't make that mistake. Or sometimes it might happen, the father says, I wanted to become a doctor, I could not become, so I want to fulfill my dream through my son. Now poor son, he is interested in some music or some art or something. Now this father is pressurizing the fellow, and with lot of money, suppose even if he gets in the medical college, let us assume. What is said here? Para-dharmo bhayavaha. It is very, very dangerous. Why dangerous? Even at the practical level, let us say. Now this fellow has gone into medical college. He has no interest in studying medicine. He has no aptitude, marks are very less, but because of money power, he has gone there with lot of influence, etc. Now, what will be his condition? He is interested in some art or music or whatever, but here in that, campus, medical campus, he is constantly surrounded by things which he just dislikes. His friends are studying very well because they are interested. They have chosen it. And what happens to this person? This student, he is asked to study medicine, but he has no interest at all, and others are scoring very well. What happens to him? He becomes miserable. There are very many cases where youngsters have committed suicide because they are not able to cope up with the pressure. The father is not able to understand, the family is not able to understand. Here I am not able to study. He might have been a better student in some other field, but there is no scope. So unable to handle the pressure, there are very many youngsters who have committed suicide. I am told that suicide rates are increasing even in Indian Institute of Technology also. Just imagine. Mugged up something, studied something, but then when they were faced with really brilliant fellows, in IIT all the brilliant intellects are there, and he is in such a class. Now what will happen to them? Now that's why it is said, para-dharma bhayava. He is in a field where he is not at all interested in. I have seen a very interesting cartoon. I still remember it because it was so beautifully depicted. So there is one donkey sitting, and in front of the donkey so many beings are there. One is a fish, there is a monkey, there is a giraffe, there is a snake, there is an elephant, and this donkey is telling, see, I want to know who is the best among you. So there is a big tree. Whoever climbs this tree and reaches the top first, he will be considered the best student. Now fish is also there. Poor fish. That fish is good in where? It is good in water, but he is not given an opportunity. Now this donkey is saying, I want to be impartial. I want to be impartial. So the same test has to be given to everybody. I can't give different tests. So whoever climbs this tree first, he will be considered the best. Now this cartoon is so beautiful, but this is exactly what is happening in the modern day society. Bhagavan says, para-dharma bhayavaha is very, very dangerous because, what is the danger here? Well, at a very superficial level, suppose, let us take the same condition. There is a youngster, he is there in the medical college, he is miserable, he has all kinds of inferiority complex, he feels that I am fit for nothing, good for nothing, because others are doing well, that means I am useless. Fine, let us assume that somehow he passes that medical exam, becomes a doctor. What does he do? Not only that 4 or 5 years, the study life has been miserable. After that also, his misery continues because he is in a field which he just doesn't like. He is in a profession which he doesn't like. So the whole life is gone. Isn't it? Now this is what you call from a worldly standpoint. Now from a spiritual standpoint, what happens? He has the vasanas for music and art. Are those vasanas getting exhausted? He is not getting an opportunity to exhaust those vasanas. Vasanas get exhausted when you are getting a field to express your talents, abilities. He is not able to exhaust the music vasana, number one. So those vasanas are there, impressions are there. At the same time, he is creating another new vasana. Which vasana? Medical vasana. So on one side, medical vasana is increasing. On the other side, music vasana is remaining as it is. So what is happening to the vasana bundle? The vasana bundle is increasing. Vasana bundle increasing means impurity of the mind is increasing. Impurity of the mind is increasing means what? Are you evolving in spirituality or devolving in spirituality? You are coming down. Because greater and greater impurities you are gathering. In spirituality, your every action should purify the mind. In this case, what is happening? the mind is becoming more and more impure. It is gathering more and more vasanas, worldly vasanas. Meaning, he is going away and away from God. That's why it is said, bhayavaha. It is very, very dangerous. So what is good? Whatever is your Svadharma, what you feel right, whatever you are attracted to, even though there may be very many defects, don't worry, continue doing it. Because that is what is good for you. Swadharme nidhanam shreya. Now, in this case, what is Arjuna doing? Is he trying to do Svadharma or para-dharma? His Svadharma is fighting the war, but what is he saying? I will not fight the war. It is far better to beg food than kill these such great people. Now, begging food is his Svadharma or para-dharma? A sannyasi can beg food. A brahmachari can beg food. He is a kshatriya. He is a grihastha. He has no right to beg food. A brahmana can beg food. He is telling, I will go and beg food and I will live. Kshatriya should never speak such words. Now see, he is trying to do para-dharma, giving up his Svadharma. Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmaya used to say, let us assume that Arjuna retires into some ashram, gives up all his job. What will he do? Now he is a kshatriya. He will have all kinds of anger and revenge and everything because he is a kshatriya. So what will he do? He will take the sword and cut off all the trees in the forest because that rajas is there. I should have killed all of them, and he will chop off all those trees. Gurudev used to say. Because that express, it will definitely express. It will never allow him to sit quietly in the ashram. This is the meaning para-dharmo bhayavaha. Not only you are not exhausting your present vasanas, you are creating more and more of new vasanas. So therefore, it is dangerous. So therefore, what is the message? The message is, perform your Svadharma alone. Now actually the teaching comes to an end here. But now Arjuna asks a very important question. And this is one question which normally every one of us we have. And this one question, because of this question, Bhagavan extends the length of this chapter. First let us see what this question is. Verse number 36. Arjuna uvacha atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. Yes, Bhagavan, I have a question. What is the question? Bhagavan, why do we commit sins? Papam charati purusha. A person commits sins. Why? He knows that it is sin. Anichannapi. He doesn't want to do it. He knows this is something wrong. I should not do it. But even then, helplessly he does it. Atha kena prayuktoyam. It appears that there is some external force which is compelling him to commit the sin. Though he knows that it is a sin, he helplessly does it. What is that force? It appears as though he is forced to do it, compelled to do it. What is that? This is the question. All of us, we know what is right, what is wrong. But even then, it appears that some force is compelling us to commit sin. So now, to this question, Bhagavan answers. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Kāma esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyena miha vairinam. Yes. So this topic comes under Karma Yoga because there are actions which we do even though we don't want to do. So it's an action. So it has to come under the topic of Karma Yoga. So what does Bhagavan say? Yes, Arjuna, yes. What you are telling is right. There is a force which compels people to commit sin. What is that force? Esha kamaha, this kama, this desire. Esha krodha, this krodha, this anger. This is the one which compels people to commit sin. Esha kamaha, esha krodaha. Now both of them are singular. So why singular is used? What Bhagavan is saying is, this kama, krodha, they are not different. They are one and the same thing only. They take different forms on different occasions. So when it is said kama, krodha, we have to understand the other four also. What are the other four? Kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, 6. So all those things have to be understood. This kama, which itself becomes krodha, which itself becomes lobha, all the other 5 are nothing but expressions of kama only. So you have to handle whom? Kama. What is kama? Desire. How can you say that from desire all the other 5 come? Intense desire, when it is obstructed, it becomes krodha. What is anger? Anger is nothing but intense desire obstructed. I have an intense desire to get something, somebody comes, obstruct my desire, then the very same intense desire take the form of anger. If you don't have any desire, you will find that there will not be any anger also. Or whenever you are angry with someone, you will always find that there is insistence. There is something which you badly want to do, but the other person is not allowing. Then comes krodha. So in the same way, others also you can see. Kama, krodha, lobha. What is lobha? There is a desire, you fulfill the desire, and then slowly that desire increases. I want more, I want more, I want more. So whenever kama is fulfilled, it becomes lobha, greed. Desire fulfilled becomes greed. Desire obstructed becomes anger. And when that desire comes, you are not able to think. Then comes moha. Moha means delusion. You are not able to think properly. The thinking gets obstructed. So kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada. What is mada? Arrogance. You desired something, you got more, and you come to know that you have much more than others. Then what happens? Mada, arrogance, pride. That superiority complex that comes. When you get more than others. When you get less than others, what happens? Matsarya. I have only less, you have more, you become jealous. So you will find that kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all of them, where is the root? Kama. So therefore now you will find in the rest of the verses, Bhagavan deals only with kama. Because if kama is destroyed, everything else automatically will find its grave. Now what is being said? Esha kamaha, esha krodaha. Now we have to target this kama. So first of all, you have to understand its nature, its working, its residence. Only then you can perfectly deal with this kama. So that is the mission of Bhagavan now. Now see what is being said about this kama. This kama is rajoguna samudbhavaha. Each and every term is a great pointer for all of us to meditate, to win over this kama. What is being said? Rajoguna samudbhavaha. So you will always find that when the mind is in rajas, it will be difficult for you to control kama or krodha. Whenever the mind enters into a rajasic mood, you will find the play of kama krodha in the mind. So what is the tip? The tip is nitya sattvasto bhava. Keep your mind in sattvic state. How do you keep your mind in sattvic state? Through prayer, through all those spiritual activities. When you do all the spiritual activities, mind remains in sattva. As long as the mind is in sattva, the kama cannot gain root in the mind. Rajoguna samudbhavaha. What is the problem with this kama? Mahashanaha. It will devour you. It will eat you. Mahashanaha means what? A great eater. It will eat away everything of yours. Your health, wealth, everything. That is kama. Very dangerous fellow. Mahashanaha, great eater. Then Mahapapma is a Mahapapi. It will make you commit all kinds of sins. unthinkable sins it will make you do, it will force you to. It's a great sinner, this Kāma. Vidyena miha vairinam. Understand him to be your enemy number one. Never allow this Kāma to gain root in your mind. These are the instructions given to a spiritual sadhaka. Beware. But Bhagavan, please tell me how this Kāma virus attacks us. How does it attack? How does it make me compelled to do something wrong? I am the boss. Mind is mine, instruments are mine, indriyas are mine. How this Kāma virus attacks me and makes me helpless? That topic is beautifully covered in the next two verses, 38-39. Dhumena vriyate vannihi yathādarsho malena ca yathōlbena vrito garbha तथा तेनेदमावृतम् आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेण नलेन च. Yes. तथा तेन idam आवृतम्. How does this Kāma attacks a person and compels him to do the sinful activities? So here Bhagavan says, this Kāma, what it does is, it covers the jnanam of that person, knowledge of the person. So we are all functioning in the world with what? Jnana, buddhi is there. So buddhi tells us, this is right, this is wrong. So accordingly we act and then we go on with our lives. But what does this Kāma do? It directly attacks the intellect and paralyzes the intellect, covers the intellect, wheels the intellect. So when it wheels the intellect, what happens? You are no more able to access your knowledge. It can be your experience, whatever you have studied, all those knowledge is there present in you. Now you are not able to access. Why? This Kāma has covered the intellect. Now this covering, Bhagavan gives 3 examples. How Kāma covers jnanam. So what are the 3 examples given? Yatha vannihi dhumena avriyate. Just like the fire is covered by smoke. Example number 1. Just like fire is covered by smoke. Second example. Yatha malena adarshaha avriyate. Just like mirror is covered by dust. Second example. Third example. What is the third example? Yatha ulbena garbha avritaha. Just like the fetus is covered by the womb. Third example. So what are the 3 examples? Number 1. Just like the smoke covers the fire. Second one, just like the dust covers the mirror. Third one, just like the womb covering the fetus. In this way, tatha tena idam avrutam. This is covered by that. What do you mean this is covered by that? This knowledge is covered by that desire. Now 3 examples are given. Why 3 examples are needed? Explanation number 1. 3 examples represent 3 moods of the mind. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So if you are in a Sattvic state, the covering is very mild. A little effort and you can take away the covering. Example, like the smoke covering the fire. Fire is there, little smoke is there. What you have to do? Enough. Smoke is gone. If your mind is sattvic, you are able to win over Kāma very easily. You are able to detect it, you are able to correct it. There is no difficulty at all. Slightly it comes and you are just able to without any effort, effortlessly you are able to win over Kāma. Because the intellect is bright and brilliant when you are in a sattvic state. So, how effortlessly you get rid of the smoke from the fire, so easily you are able to remove that desire from your mind. If the mind is sattvic. Next one, but if it is rajasic, it is like dust covering the mirror. Any foo-foo will not do. What you have to do? You have to take a cloth, rub and scrub it. Effort is more, isn't it? Removing the dust from a mirror, there is more effort. It is equivalent to rajasic mind. Effort is more. If the mind is rajasic, winning over Kāma is quite difficult. Quite difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. But if the mind is tamasic, forget about it. What is the example given? That baby in the womb. Now this example is amazing because, see, the dust on the mirror, you can slightly see some reflection. Smoke and fire, you can still see the fire. But this womb inside the, the fetus inside the womb is something which you can't see. Very difficult even to recognize that there is Kāma in my mind. He is not even aware. And what is the nature of that baby? It is hanging upside down. Isn't it? Your buddhi will be so totally upside down that you are convinced that wrong is right and right is wrong. This is the condition of a tamasic person. And moreover, any amount of effort will not do. You will have to patiently wait for 9 to 10 months for the baby to come out. Isn't it? Any effort will not do. That person in that tamasic state will yield to all temptations, commit all blunders, and finally he will repent in leisure. This is the meaning of tamasic state. He can't correct himself. So 3 states are given. This is one explanation. The other explanation is, earlier the detection, easier the correction. Earlier you detect it, it is then like fire and smoke. Very easily you can correct it. For that, what did I say? If you are regularly doing meditation, you develop an ability to peep deep within your mind. That ability to look within is the greatest ability, because you become alert, you become aware that such things are happening, I must correct it. So then, if you are able to detect it at a very early stage, then it is smoke fire example. But very many times what happens? We are not able to detect. So therefore, these thoughts multiply without our knowledge. It gains momentum, and as and when it gains momentum, it becomes more and more difficult to handle it. As they say, a stitch in time saves 9. But at the right time, you have to put the stitch. To put that stitch at the right time, you must be very alert. Sattvic person can do it. Rajasic person struggles. Tamasic person, forget about it. Everything is torn. Even then no stitching happens. Isn't it? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Tatha tena idam avrutam. What is this? This and that. Avrutam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina. So in 38 verse it is said, Tena idam avrutam. By that this is covered. Now what is that and this is explained in 39. Avrutam jnanametena. So jnanam is idam. Tena is Kāma rupena. This means knowledge. That means Kāma. So this knowledge is covered by that Kāma. Now what is the nature of this Kāma? Jnaninaha nityavairina. As far as a jnani is concerned, this Kāma is the greatest enemy. Why greatest enemy? What is the greatest treasure of a jnani? What is the greatest wealth? Jnanam. What else? A jnani is known for his jnanam, and what does this Kāma do? It just takes away jnanam from a jnani. What is remaining? The moment jnanam goes away, we are all two-legged animals. Isn't it? What is the difference between man and animal? Jnanam is the difference. Buddhi, intellect. knowledge, discrimination. So once that jnanam is gone, this person will compromise with all higher values, he will yield to all temptation, and finally he will do all mistakes, and then he will repent in leisure. He says, "Ayyo, I don't know why I have done that. What a mistake I have done. How did I do it? I can't believe that I did it." All these things happen. Right? So therefore, as far as that jnani is concerned, it is nitya vairi, eternal enemy. And what is the problem of this Kāma? Kāma rūpena kaunteya dushpurena analena cha. This Kāma is like insatiable fire. See the example given. Dushpurena analena cha. Like fire it is. What is the property of fire? It is dushpura, insatiable. Insatiable means what? How much ever you put into the fire, fire will never say enough. That's how its name is Analaha. This Sanskrit language is beautiful. Based on the property of the thing, the name is given. Alam na vidyate yasya saha. That which doesn't say alam. Alam means enough. So what is the nature of fire? It will never say enough. The more you put, the more it burns. This Kāma is also like that. You think, okay, if I fulfill the desire, it will be over. No! Again, it will ask for more and more, more and more. It will never end. Never think that I can put an end to all my desires by fulfilling it. Never. It is never going to happen. You start smoking once, slowly it makes you a chain smoker, or a drunkard, or a drug addict. What is this? It is this Kāma. A desire fulfilled, it asks for more and more. So all these worldly desires are such dangerous. So beware. It's a nitya-vairi, eternal enemy. Arjuna, have you understood? Yes, Bhagavan. Now please tell me what to do. How to deal with it. So the first step is to understand that there is such an enemy. First step is that. And how that enemy works, that also we must understand. How it destroys us, we must understand. Now the question is, how to destroy this Kāma. This is the next topic. So now Bhagavan explains the methodology just like how it should be explained to an army man. Now who is the Shatru, enemy? Kāma is the enemy. Who is Arjuna? He is a Kshatriya. So what is the job of a Kshatriya, an army man? To kill the enemy. So the technique should be such, it should be explained in such a way so that an army man can understand. Isn't it? So, what is the way in which the army people destroy the enemy? So there is a technique. Let us assume that all these enemies, they have gathered in a place, say Kargil or whatever. Normally they are on the top of some mountain, because on the mountain you can hit your enemies very easily. So normally they camp themselves on a higher altitude. So what is the technique employed? Now you know enemies. So number one, you must know where the enemy is. Correct? Number one, you must know where the enemy is. Number two, once you have located the enemy, the second step is cut off all the supply lines. What are the supply lines? Ammunition supply, food supply. Especially if the enemies are on top of some mountain, they cut off all the ammunition and food supply. This is the second stage. And once that has been cut off, then you attack the enemy. This is the methodology. So the same methodology is being followed in Bhagavan's explanation. So what is the first step? You have to understand where this Kāma is residing. Where is this enemy residing? Where is his camp? So that is mentioned in verse number 40. Indriyani mano buddhihi asyadhishthanamuchyate etair vimohayatyeshah jnanamavritya dehina. Yes. So where does this Kāma reside? First question. To destroy it, we must know where it resides. So what is said here? Indriyani manaha buddhi asya adhishtanam uchyate. What is being said? Where is this adhishtanam, the camping place? Where does it reside? These are the three places. What are the three places? Indriya, mana, buddhi. Etair vimohayatyeshaha jnanam avritya dehinam. Remaining in these three places, it covers the knowledge of the person, wields it, and then completely deludes the individual. So these are the three places. Now what does it mean? These are the three places where Kāma resides. How does a desire come to our heart? So you are sitting and watching the TV, and suddenly one advertisement comes. New mobile phone with lot of special features, and you have an old one. That advertisement may be 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Wonderful mobile phone. Lot of added features. Now what is happening? Indriyas are exposed to it. You are seeing it, you are hearing it. So how has that Kāma entered? It has entered through the Indriyas. No, the TV is off. But then, is the mind off? No. It is constantly thinking, such a nice mobile. I think I should have it. So nice. That so nice means what? That Kāma has entered into mind. You have started liking it. But then mere liking will not do. You must convince yourself that yes, I must buy it. So this mind applies to the intellect. See, there is such a desire. I think we should have it. Now the intellect starts thinking, yes, it is a need of the hour. My mobile is very old and this has so much of features. My life will become so easy. So it will not be a luxury. It is my need. Who decides it? Intellect. So now Kāma has entered into intellect. Are you able to see? Earlier you never had a desire. Who implanted this desire? From the sense object is entered into the senses. From the senses it entered into the mind. From the mind it entered into the intellect. Now once the intellect is convinced, what is the conviction? I must get it. Then the rest just follows. You will go to the market and get it, whatever be the price. Isn't it? I am just giving a simple example. Now apply to everything else. So Indriyani, Mana, Buddhi, these are the adhishtanam through which this Kāma enters. These are the base camps remaining where this Kāma attacks the individual. Therefore, what should be the first thing to be done? Block it. How? See the next verse. Tasmat tvamindriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshabha papmanam prajahihyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, what has to be done? Now we have understood how the Kāma enters into the mind. Fine. Tasmat. Therefore, adau, in the beginning. This is the first step to be done. What has to be done? Indriyani niyamya. Practice sense control. Control yourself. Control yourself means what? Don't expose yourself to places which will force you to compromise. In this world there are good places, there are bad places. So what is the first step? Don't go to bad places. Places, people, it can be books, it can be websites, it can be TV program. There are so many ways in which negativity can come into our mind. What is the first step? It is called as the first aid. The moment accident happens, you give some first aid. In the same way, what is the first aid in spirituality? This is called as cutting off the supply chain, supply lines. What is it that which disturbs the mind? Don't expose yourself to such things. Protect yourself. Bhadram karnebi shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyema akshabhiryajatra. May I see only that which is auspicious. May I hear only that which is auspicious. May I not expose myself to anything which will pollute my mind, which will make my mind go into negative thought lines. So this way, protect yourself. This is the first thing. Meaning, expose yourself always to satsang, association with the good and the noble and the divine. Narada Bhakti Sutra says, Dussangah sarvatha tyajyah. Give up dussanga, association with the ignoble. In this world, everything is there. We have to protect ourselves. This is the first step. Tasmat, therefore, ado, first, do this. And thus, papmanam prajahi, kill this fellow. This Kāma doesn't deserve any forgiveness. You have to finish him. Why? Mercilessly kill him, because it is jnana vijnana nashanam. It will destroy your jnana and vijnana. This Kāma is such, it will destroy your jnana and vijnana. What is jnana and vijnana? Gathered knowledge is jnana. Experiential wisdom is vijnana. Whatever you have experienced, you know through experience, then that is vijnana. Whatever information you have gathered through books, etc., that is jnana. What does this Kāma do? It will destroy your everything. So finish him. So this is the first step. What is the first step? Cut off the supply lines. Expose yourself to only what is good and the noble and the divine. So thus prevent the external negativity from entering into your mind. This is in our Shastra called as Dhamma, control over the sense organs. Fine, now from external world negativity is not coming, but what about the negativity which is already there? For that, the next two verses. So supply lines are cut off. Now you have to kill the enemy which is there inside. The fort gates are closed. Now the enemies are there inside the fort. You have to finish him. How to finish the enemy? 42, 43. Indriyani paranyahu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddhih paratastu saha evam buddhih param buddhva stabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho amarupam durasadam. Yes. So how to destroy this Kāma which is already there in the mind? So the technique given is here. Indriyani parani. The senses are higher. Indriyebhyah param manaha. Mind is higher than the sense organs. Manasastu para buddhihi. Intellect is higher than the mind. Yo buddhehe parataha tu saha. But the one which is higher than the intellect is he. Evam buddhe param buddhva. Thus knowing him who is higher than the intellect. Samstabhya atmanam atmana. May you conquer the lower self by the higher self. In this way, jahi shatrum. Kill this shatru. Hey Mahabaho. Which shatru? Kāma rupam durasadam. This Kāma which is otherwise impossible to conquer. This is the meaning. Now what does it mean? So here, the hierarchy is given. What is being said? Compared to the sense objects, sense organs are higher. This is the first step. Compared to the sense objects, sense organs are higher. Compared to the sense organs, mind is higher. Compared to the mind, buddhi, intellect is higher. And higher than intellect is he, the Supreme Lord. This way, knowing this hierarchy, conquer that Kāma, kill him, finish him. Now what does it mean? So here we are reminder of that beautiful verse from Kathopanishad, where Bhagavan, when Nachiketa is taught by Yamaraj, where the whole body is compared with a chariot. Atmanam rathinam vidhi, shariram rathamevato, buddhim tu sarathim vidhi, manah pragrahamevacha. Beautiful. So the road is the sense object. The horses are the sense organs. The reins, that is the mind. The charioteer is the buddhi. The chariot is the body. And the owner of the chariot is the jivatma, the individual. So that verse is reminded. And of course, in Bhagavad Gita, the whole thing is depicted that way, isn't it? There is a chariot, there is a charioteer, there is a horse, reins, roads, etc. This is a symbolic representation of our life. Now coming to this verse, what does it mean? Sense organs are higher than the sense objects. What does it mean? What it means is, you can choose the sense objects. It is your choice. What are the kind of sense objects you have to expose yourself? Choice is given to you. Sense organs can choose sense objects, therefore sense organs are higher. Means what? Meaning, never expose yourself to anything which will pollute the mind. This choice. Exercise this choice first. This is the first step. What are we trying to do? We are trying to kill this Kāma in us, right? Now remember, Kāma means desire. Which desire? Not the desire for satsang, desire for God, etc. Any inauspicious desire which pulls us down. Such desires we are talking of, not good desires and all. So the first step, never expose yourself to sense objects which will pollute your mind. This choice we have. But there are occasions where you don't have the choice. For example, you go along the road, some big hoardings are there. What will you do? Or railway station or airport. So many places you have no choice. Because you have to expose yourself to the world. And naturally there are places which will pollute the mind. So then go to the next. What is the next? Higher than the sense organs. What is higher? Mind. Means what? Even when you are exposed to such sense objects, let not the mind desire it. Let there be no Rāga-dvesha towards all those things. In that case you are protected. Even though you are exposed to such sense objects, you are not affected. As long as the mind is not affected, you are safe. This is the second stage. But then, what happens? Sometimes you are not alert. The mind has got, the mind has been tainted by such exposure. Then what has to be done? Don't worry. Still everything is not lost. Still there is an intellect which can decide. No, this is bad. This is wrong. Don't do it. There is somebody else. There is a bigger boss. And because intellect is higher than the mind, intellect can command the mind, rule the mind, correct the mind, and again bring back to the right direction. Right? But suppose, because this Kāma is a terrible fellow, he has got adhishtanam in indriya, mana and buddhi. So it is possible that this Kāma enters into buddhi also, corrupts the buddhi also. It is possible because Kāma has that ability. Now what has happened? Even buddhi is corrupted. Now what to do? Everything is lost? Bhagavan says, no. Even now, there is a way to come out. What is the way? Yo buddhehe paratah tu saha. There is somebody who is higher than intellect also. And who is he? He, saha. Who is he? The Supreme Lord. Now can Kāma virus reach there? No. Up to buddhi Kāma can reach, not beyond. And who is that saha? Please understand that saha is none other than the consciousness in us, the witness in us. So even when the intellect is corrupted, you as a witnessing consciousness, you are watching it. That the intellect also has been corrupted. Now this intellect cannot be trusted because it will show the wrong way as the right way. This is what the intellect does. It is called as moha. The wrong thing, the intellect will say, this is the right thing. This is what happens when the intellect is corrupted by desire. You can't trust that intellect also. So what has to be done? Bhagavan says, hold on to me, the witnessing consciousness in you. Hold on to me. Evam buddhehe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana. This way, holding on to me, win over your lower self by your higher self. Atmanam atmana samstabhya. So two atmas are there. Which atma is which? So one atma. Atma means one's own self. So depending upon the context, you have to take out the meaning of atma there. Conquer your lower atma. So what are the lower atmas? Indriya, manas, buddhi. With the higher atma. Which is this higher atma? The supreme self, which is pure consciousness, which is your true nature. In short, what is being said is, if you find that your intellect is also totally corrupted by this Kāma, totally surrender unto Bhagavan. Sharanagati is the way. Bhagavan, save me, I am finished. Seek the protection of Bhagavan. Seek the grace of Bhagavan. Surrender unto Him. And once you surrender unto Him, once you allow Him into your life, then everything is fine. Why? He is omniscient, omnipotent, Sarvashaktiman, He can do anything. And this is exactly what the meaning is when Krishna is driving the chariot. Who is the charioteer of Arjuna? Krishna. So what is the message? Make Bhagavan as your charioteer, then everything is fine. You can't trust your intellect. Hand over the intellect to Bhagavan. Bhagavan, you become my intellect. You become my charioteer. This is the meaning. Daivi-hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prabhadyante maya metam tarantite. Bhagavan says, my maya nobody can win over. Impossible. With one's own effort, nobody can win over my maya, but mam eva ye prabhadyante. Those people who surrender to me, they alone, eva means alone. Those who surrender to me alone, they alone, what? Tarantite, they cross over. So that is the meaning here. If you want to win over Kāma, there is no other way. What is the only way? Surrender unto Bhagavan. Hold on to Bhagavan. He will take you up. He will lift you from this samsara sagar. This way, holding on to Bhagavan, what you should do? Jahi shatrum mahabahu Kāma rupam durasadam. This way, finish this shatru in the form of Kāma, which is durasadam, which is impossible to defeat, conquer, without the help of Bhagavan. Only with the help of Bhagavan, this Kāma can be destroyed. Thus this beautiful chapter comes to an end. Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Dharma Yogo Nama Pratiyodhyayaha. Thus comes an end to this third chapter named Karma Yoga. What is happening here? Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvada. A dialogue is happening between Krishna and Arjuna. And what is the topic of discussion? Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre. What is that goal? How to reach that goal? So Yoga Shastra means the path, the means. Brahma Vidya means the highest knowledge of Brahman. Everything is discussed in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita so Upanishads, and this is the very essence of the Upanishads. Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Upanishads. If you have understood Bhagavad Gita, you have understood the entire Vedas. There is nothing else to understand. So thus, this chapter, beautiful chapter, comes to an end. So, I sincerely invoke the grace of the Lord, the blessings of Pujya Gurudev. May we all practice this as much as we can in this life, and may we all be free from this terrible birth-death cycle. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhaved, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.